I was, because it was getting worse every day. And no, that's exaggerated. It was getting worse monthly because the bones were starting to calcify, because they weren't just grinding and then they solidify. So that's what I was feeling. And I was watching my skating wither. And what sucked about it is when you hit and do a little roll, you know, when you fall, it felt like it was going to tear the whole thing out because it was now connected in a way that it shouldn't be. So it was this crazy pain and it just freaked you out. So you couldn't even fall anymore. If you can't fall, how good are you going to be? I didn't even know how to tell people. I just kept it quiet. Pretty hard time. That's like, who am I without my skateboard? That's a pretty scary thing. You sometimes see this, I guess, in other places. I forgot what it was, imposter syndrome, where people feel that they're an imposter. I hear like big actors sometimes feel that. And then some of these, like the TED circles I kind of got involved with, where people all feel stupid and they feel they're an imposter amongst all these smart guys. And you forget about what you've done and you just think about what you lack when you're in these circles of expectation. And that started to creep into me too. Like, people think I'm that, but I'm not. I'm done. And so there was all kinds of weird stuff churning in you. Pretty heavy time for me. I met a stuntman and he had had a surgery on his knee. And same thing, it was pretty violent what happened, and so the bones, there was a ton of scar tissue, it locked it, and then the bones started to fuse. So he went to a doctor, and you know, like a boat crank, you know, click, 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 click. What he described, because he did it, he signed off, they put you to sleep and they connect you to something like that. It's very mechanical. It broke the adhesion, but the thing is, and he had, again, you have to sign off. It ripped out all the good stuff too, or important stuff. He was like, man, I can't believe you did it to an even bigger joint, because they do that for fingers. I think shoulders is as big as they go. So knees was already too big, and definitely not hips. I couldn't use my back leg in the way that I had, so all I would do is just push around switch and do switch tricks, like everyone switch. I mean, you know, you have your tricks. Switch heel, switch kick flips are harder for some people. Switch hard flips are sometimes easier depending on, right, there's tricks. So I'm doing all that stuff and I'm still sucking in the same way that I always sucked on them. I had just pedaled around again doing regular switch, normal switch, because that's all I could do. Then I realized, you know, it's not in my head that I can't do it, it's my body. And when I started to actually physically get into the whole medieval crap and move stuff, I realized, God, you know, the reason why switch is so hard is because your body adapts to doing regular. And so if you could break that down, then maybe you could have access to switch tricks that are super hard or would be out of reach switch. So that's the reason, like, I did, one of the first tricks I did was that switch flip, switch 1 foot nose wheelie. Because to me, I know how I do switch flips. Your foot gets a little caught, it pushes you to one side of your board. And even on fakie manuals, you know how you lock your body, fakie manual? So to point your foot the opposite direction, to have your hip where it needs to be to guide it one-footed, like all that stuff is pretty subtle, but you gotta do it that way. I realized, you know, okay, that's the first trick that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that me being the best I could be, whatever year that was, I couldn't do that trick because of the physical impediment. So that's the reason why I went after it. Like, oh wow, I've removed some of it, can I do it? And if I can do that, then what else can I do? So no matter how bad I sucked, and I do, the fact that you could see yourself changing, it put me in a place like where I was when I went from freestyle to street, of like, oh no, you really suck, and now you're gonna learn by increments, like every day, every couple of days. And as long as you feel that, like that's that. Like when I was a kid, yeah, I did. It's funny, cutting down boards, I did it when I was on, before that, Walker, like in late 70s. And when I got the first power boards, cutting down Ray Bones, when I won that contest, when I first met Stacy and whatever, that's like when I was formerly on Oasis, I won it on a cutout Ray Bones, a little purple one. I can like smell that board, you know? Even when I got a pro model, and this is probably common, it's not a diss, but they got it wrong. And so I would still cut out boards even when I had a pro model. It does. It's such a healthy thing that people get together and do their own, just how it makes you feel and with your friends. And part of the reason I think skating is so progressive is that it allows itself for failure. And that's the nature of skating, is you're just trying all the time until you finally, and I think the more small companies and the more you're doing with your friends, like, let's just try this. Instead of like, oh gosh, what if it doesn't work? Well, so what? Just try it. And that, I think, if anything, speeds things up. It reminds me of those good days. He moved up to Malibu, and Steve and I were pretty different. We didn't really hang out that much for years. And in the last couple years, we started, even though, again, Malibu is like, it can be an hour to get up there, and I know it doesn't seem that far, but it's far enough to not go. We hang out, and we just trade stuff again, and just the friendship and all the commonality. I think it's been part of my mentality, the same thing with trophies, to never dwell on the past too much. Because maybe I'll get married to it, and it'll hold me to it. And those memories and stuff, and a lot of those things I think I instinctively push away, and there's always this flux of new. And I'm so fortunate that I can be in it. But being with Steve, it brings back reminders and those things. We started the company with a loan shark's money. We were terrified of him. He paid us in cash, and we had to pay him once a month, and the payouts were in paper bags. And he was a real deal. I mean, the real thing. Stuff like from movies. Like anything, he's a family man. He's actually a good guy. When he was legitimized, we paid him back. He became part of our company, actually, legally part of the books. And then he goes on in life, and he fought off cancer and heavy stuff, and we don't see each other. And then he reached out, man, it was just like about a month ago. He's like, Rod, I read about you, something. And so we all got together. We sat around the table, we were talking about, and it was such a fun, I can't believe we made it through those days. It's funny, I have a few pretty successful friends, like we all do. It seems like the most successful guys are the ones who really, they're just doing what they do. They just love, and they always keep an eye open. And they're always watching of what I could do to make myself better and more clear. But in terms of like a grand, it seems like the most special ones, they don't even have that in their head. That's definitely not me. I don't have one. It's like I've been given so much through skating, and I feel a responsibility to it. And the joy that I have more than ever is to be able to tell people about different cultures that are innovative, that are pushing the boundaries, like tech culture. Or just like a little over a month ago, I was in the World Trade Center talking to the publishers of the New Yorker and Vogue and these crazy magazines. Instead of being completely nervous, it just hit me, like when I started seeing like Jamie and some of the guys that I just love, Day One, Haslam, I forgot about them and all they do. I was like, man, I'm here showing them about what we have, and they brought me here because they want to hear why we're so unique. I'm going to give it to them. And that drives me a lot. So where that takes me, I don't know.